My latest project is to make a sword. I'm choosing to do Longclaw, which is Jon Snow's sword in Game of Thrones. You can buy a replica of the sword that's used in the TV series. As you can see here, it's £580, and I don't particularly like it. I think if I was to design it like this, people would think I've done a rubbish job of the pommel. So I've decided to do my own thing, and I'm going to do, instead of a wolf's head, I'm going to do my dog Jack's head, and I'm going to design the sword in the way that I like. So I've designed it in 3D first, and then transferred it onto paper, stuck it on some metal, and off we go. I'm just making it out of mild steel, so it won't be hardened. So if I whacked it against something, it would probably bend. And I'm not going to sharpen it. There's no point. So it's a replica, like a movie prop, but it'll feel pretty good. Okay, that's roughly cut the profile in. Now we'll just refine that profile with the grinder. Okay, that's the profile in. Now I need to narrow the blade towards the tip. So I'm going to take some weight off the lower half of the blade with the big wheel. After a lot of time grinding, I've narrowed the width of this final third of the blade. Probably needs more, but that'll get me in the ballpark. Right, now the hard bit. I've got to grind these bevels in, 4 bevels. I'm not going to make it absolutely sharp, but trying not to do wavy lines running down the fuller is going to be a nightmare. So just to get me close, I've got this little test piece. What I can do is grind a few angles into that and see whether, well, just to get as close as I can really. Let's have a look. So I've angled the platen, and I've also angled the stand, the rest, leaving hopefully the right angle to grind a bevel in, and I can adjust either of these to get it refined. So looking at that, I think we're too steep because we're cut past the halfway mark and we haven't even reached the fuller, so that one's too steep. So I've put this brace rail in. That'll hopefully stop me going too high, because if I go too high it'll wash these edges of the fuller out. So if I can keep it onto this wood, go back and forth, hopefully that'll control it. We will see. Tried it with that rest and I couldn't really control it. Things were moving a little bit, so I think I'm going to have to freehand it. This bit here is just done by hand. In other words, I'm going to have to hold it just by hand and get the angle right. Okay, just got to take my time that I don't wash away that fuller line. Here goes nothing. Okay, it's been a few days since I cut this first bevel. Since I went to the Royal Armoury in Leeds, I was having a really good look at their swords. And the thing that I came away with most is how thin the blades were. And the way I've cut mine at the moment, even when I do the other side, I think I'm going to be left with quite a thick blade. It's therefore heavy. So I'm going to take this bevel even less steep. So I'm going to do a shallower grind now and take it down to maybe this blue mark there. That will also reduce the size of the fuller, which might look better as well. So I've got a bit of a tricky challenge ahead. Right, so after days of grinding and hand sanding, I think I've got it to a point that I'm happy with the bevels. I may do a little bit more refining, but I've had enough. That was a lot of work. It's a lot lighter now. Now, next thing to do is probably the hardest thing, which is to make the guard. I'm going to try something really silly that nobody else seems to have done. That's I'm going to stack up layers of steel, weld them together and then grind them down, because I haven't got a single piece of steel that's thick enough to make the guard in one piece. It's probably a total disaster, but let's see how we go.
Looking it up, it's so cool. So it's right now at Atlanta's High Museum.
So this is what the guard's going to look like from this angle, but from the side it's going to be built up in layers. So I've got this as 8mm steel and these as 5mm steel. I've printed them out, stuck them on, so now I've got to cut them out and stack them together. So, roughly tack welded that down one side. Now I'm going to grind this side, try and get it all smoothed out, and then keep welding and grinding until it's all one piece. Wish me luck. Right, there was a lot wrong with the welding yesterday. It was late and I was getting giddy. One, I didn't wear any gloves, and I've managed to sunburn that hand a bit. Weld gives off UV light, so that's bad. And I also noticed in the background near where I was welding I had a bottle of acetone, which is flammable. So let's do some thinking today first, alright? Okay, so I don't get gaps appearing in between these layers. What I need to do is run some weld down each of the joints, which I've done on this side, and they don't seem to be showing up. And then just to help it, I'm going to use the Dremel just to gouge out a trough between the layers so that the weld can go even deeper in, so that when I grind it back off, the lines don't appear. There we go. Okay, after a lot of grinding, I mean a full day of grinding, hand sanding, re-welding, I've got it to this stage here. Got rid of all the marks, the connections between the layers. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a buff and see how it looks. Okay, here's our block of aluminium. I've marked out the different profiles of the wolf head. Yeah, Jack's face. So first thing I'm going to do is helicoil a thread into the back here, so that'll give me a way of holding it still while I'm working, and also attaching it to the sword at the end. Right, I've marked it out. So red areas are where I don't want to cut into it, I need to retain it, and blue areas are where I want to reduce it down further. We got the blade to where we want it, we've got the guard to where we want it, so let's just fit these together. There we go. Got a nice fit on those two, and then the handle is going to hold all that together with the pommel screwed in at the end. So the next stage is to thin this out a bit, get rid of some of the weight on this and give us a nice thin tang. I've narrowed the tang down and it's so much lighter now. I'm really happy with it. There was a lot of weight in the tang there. So that's narrower, and I've also slimmed down the end and rounded it off so that I can thread that so that we can screw the pommel on. I've been doing a bit of woodwork for the handles. I've carved 2 grooves out, which will go either side of the tang like this. So that goes there, that goes there. Sandwiches the tang in. There you go. Alright. I've glued the 2 halves together now. That goes over the tang. Now I'm going to shape the handle. to do the leather wrap. That should do it. To hold the ends of the wrap on, you create something called a ferrule, which is basically a ring of metal that will protect the end and hold everything in. So I'm just slowly bending that around to fit. So the reason it spirals like that is so that I can avoid the edge of the vise, so I can keep curling it round like that. Now I just need to cut it and then twist it back together. I think they do rings in this way. I saw it on Rings of Power. You twist them back in. There we go. Right, that should do it. Just weld that up and try and ease it on. This is it, final assembly. Okay, stick the guard on. And the grip. And let's screw the pommel on. There he is. My version of Jon Snow's Longclaw Sword.